I was reading an article by Aaron Starkey over at Far Out magazine where he talks about Geddy Lee's two least favorite Rush albums. And those of you who are fans of the band will know that in the past Geddy Lee has said negative things about albums like Caress of Steel. I've even heard him say negative things about Fly By Night, and even the debut album self-titled Rush. But none of those albums made his list, according to the article. In a recent interview in a career retrospective with Alex Lifeson, Geddy remarked that it was actually the albums Hold Your Fire and Presto that are his least favorite in the Rush catalog. And what's interesting about this is that they are back-to-back albums. They came out within 3 years of each other, from 1987 to 1989, and they are a focal point for the keyboard transition that Rush made from the 70s to the 80s. Now, I've done videos in the past on Rush's sound and the inability for Rush to find what I feel was a compatible producer after Terry Brown left, and I feel that this is the case with both of these albums. And I think that the production on the two albums really undermines the material. So I'm going to tell you more about what I think, but first let me tell you what Geddy Lee said about why he doesn't like these two albums. So he did mention that he thought Power Windows, the album that came before Hold Your Fire, was a great success. But then he said that the approach they were using may not have been that successful on Hold Your Fire and Presto. Quote, on those records, the keyboards were still present, but not in so positive a way. That was making the case, once again, for realigning the sound. What we can take away from that quote is that he started to feel that the keyboards were a bit imbalanced in the band. Now, he didn't specify in that quote whether he thought that was an element of the songwriting or an element of the production. So let's go back and take a look at the songs on Presto. The songs on Presto are very much guitar driven. Got Show Don't Tell, you've got Pass, you've got Presto, and Superconductor, all of that have a really strong guitar presence. It's the overall production of the music that gives it kind of a plastic feel, and the Rupert Hine approach here was to try to make Rush a radio-friendly or a pop band because they had been experiencing some success in the mainstream. But what really drives Rush is the kind of trio energy that is always struggling to find perfect harmony. It doesn't need to be super polished because the band is so proficient at their instruments. So in this case, I would chalk up the failed attempt of the album, if it is a failure, to the production. Now, let's go and take a look at Hold Your Fire. And I think that Hold Your Fire has stronger material on it from a songwriting point of view, but if we take a look at it, we can see that it's not nearly as guitar-centered. So Force 10, Tai Shan, Mission, these are all songs with really strong keyboard. And again, the production on the album is a bit of a bad fit for the band, in my opinion. Peter Collins overproduced Rush on this occasion, and I think in some cases the production smothers the material. I would say that's true on Force 10 for sure, and I also feel that it's somewhat true on Open Secrets and Second Nature. And these are two kind of mid-tempo Rush songs that would have benefited from production more along the lines of Closer to the Heart or Farewell to Kings, something that let the band breathe a little bit. So I feel that while Geddy is concentrating on the realignment of the band's basic sound, I think it was more the production that was the drawback on these two albums. So do I agree with him that these are two really weak Rush albums? Actually, I don't. I think that Hold Your Fire has some really good material on it. I feel that it was almost a masterpiece. I think that one of the things that holds it back is the fact that there's not enough interplay between the three members that survive the mix. Everything's put into such a perfect place that you can't feel the inner dynamics of the band. That said, there's still a lot of really good songs on the album, and I don't think it's a miss at all. When it comes to Presto, I tend to agree with Geddy. I think that this album was just a transitional period for the band altogether, and that they weren't really working in a concise way. They weren't coming up with finished statements, and they weren't able to bring the song structures into an alignment with the overall aesthetic of the production and the sound quality, which means that by definition, it is a realignment album. So he's absolutely right on that. Anyway, I'd like to know what you think about this topic and whether you think Geddy Lee is correct in criticizing these two albums. I also think that if you like the transition periods of bands, like if you're a person who likes to see a band when they're fishing around for their sound rather than when they're mastering it, then these two albums are a feast. So keep that in mind. Anyway, this is what I think, but what really matters is what you think. So if you have an idea about this or any other topic connected to classic or contemporary music, please drop it in the section below, and remember to like and subscribe. I'd also like to point out that there's a join button available now for those of you who would like to support the site. If you join, you get access to members-only badges, members-only polls, and members-only videos, as well as other perks that are really cool, and you can see them if you click on the join button, which I hope you'll do. Thanks a lot.